Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dave Dibble. On behalf of the Green Committee, we're sponsoring this Tech Talk this afternoon. We're fortunate in the Phoenix area. We have a great expert on the topic. His name is Greg Peterson. He works in a place called the Urban Farm, and among a number of his other projects. I've known him for a few years, and he and his group have kind of introduced me to a lot of interesting and strange ideas. And so we brought him in to introduce you to some strange and new ideas as well. So, Greg?
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks. We're going to go ahead and start you off on a 1-minute video on my house, of all places. So my big idea is let's look to see how we can have our homes and the land around our homes fuel our lives. My entire yard is edible, from the front flower beds to the edges of the backyard. I started thinking about how we could go about sustaining ourselves in the cities. And I looked at this great big yard that I had that I'd been gardening in for the past 20 years. And I thought to myself, how could I go about fitting in edibles and energy in my yard? A few years ago, I planted an apple tree hedge in the front yard. One of the biggest pieces of the edible landscape are the fruit trees. There are over 60 fruit trees here on the property. Part of how we go about putting 60 fruit trees on 1/3 of an acre is we keep them all small. On any given month, I'm getting 30 to 50% of my diet from my yard. We'll often go out in the afternoon and harvest our dinner. It's easy to go get an entire salad out of my yard. That looks pretty normal, huh? The house. The whole notion of, so my name is Greg Peterson, and I live at a place called the Urban Farm. That's the video you just saw. And the whole notion behind the Urban Farm is that we frame out this notion of green living in a way that people understand and that it's easy to do. One of the things that I've thought a lot about over the past 10 years of my life, I actually just finished a master's degree at Arizona State University about a year and a half ago, and it had me thinking about a lot of things and about sustainability, we call it the S word, and living green. And one of the things that I've distinguished out over the past few years is this notion of something called a one-use item. Okay? I call them a one-use asset, one-use item. And those are all those things that are in our lives that we use only once. So what are some examples of one-use items that you guys use on a daily basis? Yeah, right. Oh, yeah. Forks, plastic bottles, aluminum cans. We're going to talk about aluminum here in a little while. Those are all those things that, you know, you go into the restaurant and they bring you a cup of iced tea and there's a straw in it, right? You know what I do with that straw? I take it out and I put it next to I never use it. So that's a one-use item that never gets used. So what I'm here to do today is to challenge your thinking primarily around these things that we call one-use items. Okay? And as we go along, as you have questions, you know, if you see something that you have a question about, stick up your hand, let's talk about it, because that's what will help drive this conversation. All right? So what are the reasons? I have a few reasons up here. What are the reasons to reduce our use on these things? There's the health reasons, which we're going to talk about plastic bottles here in a little while, and the impact that they have on our health. There's the health of the environment. We'll talk about that a bit. And then there's the whole notion that one little thing. So I started using a stainless steel water bottle about a year and a half ago. And I've not used any plastic bottles since, well, besides the Gatorade or 2 that I have a month, but I've stopped using plastic water bottles. So that little thing makes a big impact over time. What other reasons might we have to reduce our use of these?
It's expensive.
The cost, that's a very good one. Because over time, if you're buying, a friend of mine buys a case or 2 of plastic water bottles at one of the grocery stores, and there is a cost involved, absolutely. Any other thoughts on that?
There's an environmental cost to the production as well as the disposal.
And that's a very good thing. There is an environmental cost to the production of that. The plastic bottles are made from petrochemical products. So there is that inherent cost involved. So That's a really good one. Plastic is forever. Go ahead to the next one more. I call this my 95-95 dilemma. Okay? And it revolves around the fact that plastic is forever. 95% of all the plastic that's ever been made is still in existence. It's either in landfills or, in your trunk, but it doesn't ever break down. The other 5% can be calculated into it's been incinerated. Okay? So 95% of the plastic out there, it's still in plastic form. And the other 95% is 95% of all the plastic bottles don't ever get recycled. Now I know you guys are really good about doing recycling here, but usually when you're out in the world, we have no place to recycle our plastic water bottles. So they primarily go into the landfill. 1,267. Give me a few guesses on what 1,267 might mean around plastic.
The years to decompose or something?
Oh, that's a good one. That's not it, but that's a really good guess. Years to decompose. Actually, what I have been told by my researchers is that it really doesn't ever completely decompose. So it would be longer than that. All right. Yeah, exactly. What else? What else might that represent?
Recycling codes.
I'm sorry?
Recycling codes.
Recycling codes. Like how many there might be?
No, like the specific codes 1, 2, 6, and 7.
Oh, okay, good. Now that's really creative. I like that. That's not what it is, though. There was one more over here.
The number of bottles an average person has in a year?
That is really close. It's the number of plastic bags that we use per person per year in the United States. And that's exactly what I was doing. This gentleman up here is shaking his head. It's like, it's amazing when you stop to think about it. How would I go about using 1,267 plastic bags in a year? And then when you go to one of the grocery stores and you see somebody coming out with 15 bags of groceries and they've all been double bagged, right? That's the only place I can go with it because I wasn't using that many before.
Including garbage bags from home?
I believe that number is only for plastic bags like you get in the grocery store, grocery bags, plastic grocery bags. The number is absolutely astronomical on how many are made in the country. It's 300 billion or something like that. It took me a couple of days just to wrap my head around how to do the math, figure out, but that's correct. Plastic bags, plastic bottles. Back. This is a photo courtesy of Planet Ark. That's a big pile of plastic bags that they were, trying to dispose of. What happens with this stuff when we dispose of it? Everybody talks about throwing something away, right? Where does it go to? Where is away? There is no way, especially the notion of what we're doing now is we're living in this closed system. Planet Earth is pretty much a closed system anymore. I mean, there's some light that comes in and out, but we've got a certain amount of resources to use, and when they're gone, they're gone. And so, plastic, one of the things about plastic is it is a petrochemical product. So as we use it up, we're also using up those petrochemical products in order to make it happen. Okay. And that poor turtle on the last slide, how many people have seen plastic bags in trees, by the road? Where else? What's the craziest place you guys have seen a plastic bag? On somebody's head, there you go. Not wrapped, hopefully not wrapped around their head. So that's the bad news. That's the bad news. The good news is we can do something about it. Like I said a couple of slides ago, the choices that you make on a daily basis around this stuff makes a difference. And the nice thing is that the choices you're making right today are fine. And if you're still using plastic bottles, that's great. What I'm here to do is to help you see that there's a different way, and then you can choose. So that's this whole continuum of living green. Right? There's living not so green and living way green. In fact, often people will tell me, because I live at the urban farm, they say, oh, you live at that totally green house in north central Phoenix. So where I live is at 16th Street in Glendale. And I have to stop them and I say, well, totally green. First of all, I don't know that that's possible. I've not gotten to a place where I've figured out how to be totally green. Okay? My sense of it is that it's just choices all along the way. So there's light green, a little bit darker green, a little bit darker green, all the way to, you know, extreme green. I could be considered extreme green, I would think. The house where I live, the urban farm, is 1/3 of an acre in central Phoenix. There are 60 fruit trees on the property. We have 3 different kinds of solar panels on the roof. Okay? We make our own electricity. And heat our own hot water, and we use the gray water, which is what goes down the sinks, and we collect rainwater. So we've incorporated all of these kinds of things into the landscape at the home where I live. So that's a little bit more extreme. And what I do is I talk to people about these different notions, and I point them out, and then y'all get to make a choice. And then it's you can look at it and say, oh, you know what, that's something I can do. The apple tree hedge that was mentioned in the video, I had a lady come and see me about 3 years ago, and I could see a light bulb going on in her head when it was happening. She was figuring out that she could actually do her own apple tree hedge. And a year later, she came back to me and she said, you know what? I bought 16 apple trees and I put them in a hedge and they're growing great. So I know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing when people are starting to take notice like that. Okay? No suffering allowed. You can't suffer when you do this. If people are going to suffer when they're looking at going green, they're not going to do it. So this isn't about suffering. It's not about giving up. A good friend of mine still uses straws. I don't use straws. I'm not interested in straws. For me, there's something but she still uses straws, which is perfect for her. And that's a choice she makes, and that works. But if we start telling people that they can and can't do things around this stuff, it just really doesn't work. So that's the part where there's no suffering here. Okay. So what can we do? This is where I want your input at. Here's some examples up here, but what are you guys doing to go green in the office? What are you doing to go green here in the office? Recycle. There is recycle bins everywhere, which I love. That's great. What else are you doing?
We use these instead of bottled water.
Use those instead of bottled water. That's very good. Those are like a Nalgene bottle, or it's a polycarbonate bottle. That's great. There's also stainless steel. I brought some stainless steel water bottles to share with you guys. I didn't bring enough for everybody, but we'll figure out. We'll figure out how to distribute them. Stainless steel is what we're finding is that stainless steel is the best. It doesn't leach, and so it's not leaching chemicals into the water that you're drinking like other plastics do. And then we're reducing the amount of plastic bottles that we use, or eliminating the amount of plastic bottles that we use. So what else are you guys doing to be green? What does that look like to you?
We have a bicycle checkout area.
Uh-huh.
So if you need to run an errand.
Ah, very good. When I heard in Mountain View they have bicycles out in front of all the buildings, right? Oh, that would be so cool. I would love to live in an area that I could bike. Phoenix isn't that area, but unfortunately. And this is where you guys get to talk a little bit while I take a drink.
Well, we're trying to get everybody to, if you're not using a room, turn off the light.
Yes.
The video projectors, these things
Right.
suck up a lot of power.
Oh, exactly. Turn off and that's a very good point. There's something called phantom energy. Anybody heard of phantom energy? Phantom energy is when everything, have you ever grabbed your cell phone charger out of the wall and unplugged it and it's still hot? It's using electricity. So phantom energy is all those things in your house that's using electricity, whether you're using them or not. And I mentioned earlier the solar panels on the roof of the house. I've had them for 2 years now, and I actually got my electric bill this past weekend. My electric bill for a 2,000 square foot house in Central Phoenix was $8.45 last month. Now, I did that in 2 ways. And this is important. First of all, we are producing our own electricity on the roof. Okay? And that takes infrastructure and putting it in, and that's something that's harder to do. The thing that's simple to do is make things more efficient. And I know you guys have started making things more efficient around the offices here. Make things more efficient. Put the compact fluorescent light bulbs in. LED lights are coming on the market. You know, you can put those in, yes.
I have a question, like with the compact fluorescent,
Uh-huh.
does it make sense to throw out a bulb that's functioning properly and replace it with compact fluorescent, or is that wasteful?
That is a very good question. And the question is, does it make sense to eliminate incandescent bulbs that are still working and put compact fluorescent bulbs in their place? The thing about incandescent bulbs is they use 10 times the energy of a compact fluorescent light bulb. Okay? The nice thing about, in this case, the nice thing about incandescent bulbs is that they have a life of maybe 6 months or a year. They have a short life. So if you've had one in for a while, you could run it out to the end. I know people that just have gone in and changed out all their bulbs and then recycle the old bulbs. The caveat on compact fluorescent light bulbs is that you need to recycle them appropriately when they're done. Because there's some heavy metals in them that they're questioning right now. But that's the simple thing. At my house, the other ways that I got reduced my power consumption to $8.45 in a month was whenever I have to buy a new appliance, I make sure it's Energy Star. So I'm not going in and doing it all at once, but as I'm going along, okay, added insulation to the attic. I did that about 10 years ago. All these things are adding up cumulatively to make it to a point after living in the house for 15 years that I can get my electricity usage way down. Another thing that's really easy to do, ceiling fans. That helps a lot. So those are several things that I've done to reduce reduce my need for electricity. That was a great question. So what else do you, give me a couple innovative ideas. What else are you guys doing at home?
Well, I'm not at home, but I was going to say, one member of our community is working on, and it's a big project of seeing where all our products that come in here are coming from.
Oh, that's nice.
So that maybe there are alternatives, like starting tomorrow, we're switching over our tea to a company that's not
local.
as green in the sense that, no, it's not local,
Uh-huh.
yes, I'd love for that, but there's green, not just in the sense of the environment, but social responsibility.
Right.
So that's one of the projects they're working on. It's a really big project.
Yes,
You get a lot of treats.
Yeah.
And so, and to also change those treats over from our habits of, what do you mean you're taking away this,
Right.
That's going to be a big change if we move down that road.
So there was a couple things that I heard. The first part of it was where are the products coming from and being conscious about where the products are coming from. And the second part is how are the products manufactured, right? Anybody heard the term food mile? Food mile, I see some shaking heads. Food mile is how far food travels from where it's raised and to where to your plate, essentially. Anybody want to guess on the average food mile on our food? The average amount of miles that food travels to land on our plate?
1,000. Yeah.
1,000? Not quite.
Billion.
A billion. That's good. That's good. 1,300 miles. Food travels 1,300 miles, and the impact, the environmental impact of that, is huge because that food, they have to use gasoline or petrochemical products to get them here. And that also goes to eating in season. Okay? Eating what is currently in season. Apples and peaches and apricots and plums and watermelons, that's all what we're coming into the season of now. If we wanted oranges right now, oranges are probably coming from South America. So we're having to bring them up. So knowing where our, in this case, food comes from or where our products come from has a large impact on the environmental impact. Okay, so if we can say, you know what, I'm only going to eat what's local, what's grown locally. That food it doesn't have to travel as far. Okay? Now, you mentioned the social impact of this. This whole notion of sustainability, and I call it the S word because it's so it's a hard word to grok. It's a hard word to get. But in a nutshell, there are three pieces that we have to take into consideration when we're looking at sustainability. There's the environmental piece, right? That's like, oh yeah, right, of course. Okay. You mentioned it, there's the social aspect of it. Okay. What's the social impact of this product? Is it coming from a country far away that's paying children 2 cents an hour to make it? Okay. What's the third piece? Yeah, exactly. Economic. You were going to say economic, financial. So when we're looking at this whole sphere of sustainability, we have to evaluate all three of those pieces in order to develop a model that actually works from a sustainable perspective. And the economic piece is, it's businesses. In order for businesses to buy into going green, they're going to need a financial incentive to be able to do it.
There's also the ethics of those businesses and their practices.
Yes.
With their employees and whatnot.
Right, and then so the ethics, for me, the ethics fall under the social piece.
Right.
So it's social. So and that was my academic 3 steps on sustainability. You guys have any questions about that? Okay. So I'll have a tendency to get off track. It'll just drag me back if you need to. What can we do? So there's this whole notion of the cloth bags, right? How many people have cloth bags at home for the grocery store, to take to the grocery store? How many people have them at home and not in their car? Yeah, exactly. It took me a few, getting to the grocery store and, oh my gosh, I don't have groceries. Or I don't have grocery bags. They're back at home to get to, remembering. And then what I did is I'll take the groceries home, unload the groceries, and put them immediately back in the car. Okay? Now, how many people have walked into the grocery store and forgotten their bags before? Yeah, a few people I know. I've done that before. The deal I made with myself, and we'll talk about this a little more in a minute, but the deal I made with myself is that no more plastic bags. So what I've actually done is I've loaded the groceries in the cart, back into the cart, and taken them out to this car and bagged them in the car. Yeah, so that's part of how I've done it. Stainless water bottles. Let's talk about this whole notion of water bottles. Okay, we all need to drink water, and there are a myriad of different choices on what kind of bottles that we can drink out of. The plastic one-use bottles, like the smart water bottles that I'm seeing at this moment, they're a soft plastic. They're the worst for us, okay? And they're the worst for our environment. Remember what I said earlier, that 95% of the plastic doesn't ever get recycled? Plastic bottles don't ever get recycled. They still end up in the landfill. And that's a huge impact on the environment. But it's also an impact on our health. Plastic leaches. And basically what that means is that the water that stays in the plastic bottle over time, some of the chemicals that are in the plastic leach out into the bottle. Okay? The soft plastic one-use bottles are the worst. Okay? And remember, I've said it twice now, one use. They're for use only once. Don't be refilling them. Okay? So here's some don'ts about plastic. Don't refill one-use plastic bottles. Don't leave them in your car. That extreme heat has the bottles leach more. Don't put them in the freezer. Sorry if you're freezing them. But those chemicals get into the plastic bottle. And all this is listed on our website, yourguidetogreen.com. On the front page, there's a few links at the top left that explains in depth, we call it the plastic primer 1 and the plastic primer 2.
Also, if you have a plastic dish or something you want to reheat, you shouldn't reheat in the plastic.
That was the next piece. Don't put plastic in the microwave. No plastic, no styrofoam in the microwave. Because as you're heating it, those chemicals in those containers are leaching out into your food, and then that's what we're eating. Yes, please, Dave.
So a bottle of water I buy or get, it's probably been weeks since that was filled with water and transported and then put in the refrigerator, et cetera.
Yes.
A bottle of smart water, let's say.
Right.
So I drink it, and then I fill it up with water again.
Yes.
How is the amount of chemicals, are the amount of chemicals that are going to leach into it in the second filling going to be any significant amount compared to how long it's been in transit and
So the question is that you buy a bottle that's been sitting on a shelf for a couple of weeks or a month, and the chemicals have leached into it, and you drink it, and then you fill it up again, and the leach, it won't be as much. But what I'm told by my researchers is that the older a bottle gets, the more it leaches. Okay, so we get the longer, the older the bottle is, the more over time that it will leach. I have a professor at ASU that I took classes from a couple of years ago, and he talked about prudent avoidance. Is it prudent for me to be drinking out of a plastic water bottle? It's not. I've made the choice to only drink out of stainless steel.
There was a recent study of baby bottles.
Yes.
And,
with the BPA, the baby bottle BPA thing.
It was the dishwashing that actually made it leach more.
Oh.
And it nearly doubled it every time you put it through the dishwasher.
Wow. That's interesting. So running the plastic bottles through the hot dishwasher. Yeah, they're finding all kinds of interesting things out like that. And the research is out there. We're finding that it's pretty readily available. So I suggest to people stainless steel bottles and glass. Okay? And as you can tell, I've dropped my bottle a few times and it's pretty dented up. So if this was glass, it would have been broken 8 or 10 times. So then I lean towards stainless steel for myself. Stainless steel doesn't leach. And you can put it in the freezer if you want to freeze it. Don't fill it up all the way, and that way you can get ice inside of it. There are other metal bottles on the market, and there are several bottles that are made from aluminum. Okay? And it's been reported that these aluminum bottles are then lined. I myself have had some health issues with having too much aluminum in my body. And it affects the neurology of, I actually shake a little bit on this side because of having taken in too much aluminum. So I go back to, for myself, I go back to that whole notion of prudent avoidance. Okay? I want to avoid those things that might impact me, impact my health, and an aluminum bottle would do that. So I just, I avoid aluminum also. Questions about that?
So if you had to pick, I understand your personal health conditions.
Uh-huh.
If you had to pick between this tea bottled in a plastic bottle or in an aluminum, because here we're going to have to do that. Well, maybe glass. Glass
Yeah, I've seen, there are some glass ones.
But
So,
if you had to pick between aluminum and plastic, aluminum is much more recyclable than plastic. So
very good. Actually, that is absolutely the case. So if I had to pick between aluminum and plastic, aluminum is much more readily recyclable. It absolutely is. I think they say that it takes 60 days for an aluminum can to go from aluminum can to being an aluminum can again. Plus, there's a demand for it. What we're finding with plastic is there's not the demand for the recycled materials that there is the supply of them. So it's creating, this abundance of plastic on the market that we just don't know what to do with.
But that is, there's no demand for the recycling because there's still some raw material, right? We still have petroleum all over the world.
Yes.
So if
So how do we fuel the demand?
yeah, why don't some people get together
Yes.
and get say, hey, let's use all this plastic we already have and just redo it. Is
Yeah.
that too expensive? Or
Well, one of the things that they're finding is that it's more expensive to recycle it than it is to use virgin. So that would, that'll have a tendency to, but we just need to get creative. There's this really cool new product on the market. I saw it about 6 weeks ago. It's called Nature's Milk Composter. It's a composter that you can put in your kitchen. It looks like a trash compactor. It's about this size, and you just put all your compostables in the top of it, right? And 2 weeks later, the stuff comes out composted out of the bottom. That is a cool piece of technology. It's like everybody should have one of those. I've got mine on its way. I just love that idea. And we have the brains to come up with solutions for all of this. So we just have to start thinking about what are we going to use? What are we going to use all this plastics for? And I know I know we'll come up with something. They make out of plastics. They make benches, tables. I know they make carpeting out of recycled plastic. So.
To some extent, the entire plastic industry comes from, hey, we've got this stuff left over from refining oil and that, so
right.
What can we do with it now?
Exactly. So yes, the entire.
Kind of the next progression of that.
Right. So that's an interesting thought that the plastic industry already is taking something that isn't quite used from the petroleum process. Yeah, that's cool. So stainless water bottles. this next thing, reduce, reuse, and let's not recycle anymore. And I usually get a bunch of people saying, what are you talking about? The notion here is that what comes first? Reduce, right? Reuse, and then recycle. And what I'm finding is that this whole notion of recycling, people say, oh, well, it's recyclable. Or, oh, I'll recycle it. And it's almost an easy way to get off the hook, right? And it is, isn't it? It is, yeah. It's a good excuse. Oh, I'll recycle it, right? And remember earlier we were talking about one-use items. Right? What I'm proposing is that we look at how we can reduce or reuse those one-use items. Hey, my mom goes, when they bring the leftovers home, right? In the leftover container, and I actually have a really cool solution for you on that one too. But she'll, she takes the leftovers home, she eats the leftovers, and then that leftover container lands on my doorstep full of chicken food, because I have chickens in my yard. Okay? And the chickens eat all of that stuff. So that item now has been used twice. Okay? Fast food container landed on my doorstep, right? Well, recently we found this item it's a stainless steel take-to-go container. And you can actually take it to the restaurant with you. Okay? When you have your leftovers, you just open it up, put it in there, and take it out with you. So you're reducing the need to have to even recycle that plastic. How many of y'all have gone to a restaurant, eat most of your food, and they come and say, oh, would you like a takeout container with that? And I have to look at that, and it's, if it's just a little bit of food, it's like, well, it's not really worth it. So sometimes I'll make a decision not to take it home. And sometimes we do. And I noticed out in the kitchen we had paper containers for that now. That's really cool. See, that's another place. That's pressed paper takeout containers, right? Yeah. That's something, the pressed paper is something that's easily biodegradable. Okay? So really what we're doing here is we're looking at how we can reduce our need for these items. And from a grassroots level, this is where the change is going to happen. Okay? If enough of us out there say, you know what, I don't want to use plastic bottles anymore, I'm just going to use stainless steel or, something that's used multiple times. I don't want straws anymore. I will make decisions, it says restaurants up there, I will make decisions about where I eat depending on what they're serving me on. And it's a little extreme, I realize that. But I like to go to a restaurant where they're actually going to give me a plate that they then take away and stick in the dishwasher. And there's an environmental cost to that also if they're having to wash it. I realize that. And that's going back to this notion of the different shades of green. It's like, how many different shades of green are there, and the different choices along the way. That's a particular choice that I make. Packaging. I've noticed that a lot of the software companies now, and a lot of the stuff we can get online anyways. In fact, I haven't bought, since iTunes came on board, I haven't bought a CD. I just get them off of iTunes. I love that because they're not giving me something that I have all this packaging for now. In fact, about a year and a half ago, I loaded all my CDs onto my computer. And I have this big box of CDs that's sitting in, what do I do with them? I can't sell them. So they're just sitting in a corner. So I actually love, I love the digital age, that part of the digital age. So, and I'm noticing that the packaging, like from Apple Computer, it's made out of the pressed paper. They're really starting to get conscious about the packaging they're putting out. So anybody want to contribute anything else that we might do? Any more thoughts on what else we can do? Yes?
I just have a question.
Please.
So, let's say I have a birthday party for one of my children. Today the standby thing is a bunch of little plastic water bottles for all the kids. I've never seen stainless steel tumblers, little cups that I can get them. Why don't those exist, for example? Yeah,
we actually have available a 12-ounce water bottle. This is 20 ounce right here. We have a 12-ounce water bottle on our website. That's something we can look into. I don't recall having seen a stainless steel tumbler, but I'm sure they have to make them. What's that?
Urban Outfitters.
Urban Outfitters, there you go.
They also have their own issues too.
Well, yeah, and that goes back to, there's choices that we have to make.
Right.
Okay? All of these stainless steel water bottles, in fact, all stainless steel water bottles, as well as most of the aluminum ones, are made in China. Though that has its issues too. You know, it's a balancing act. And really what I'm encouraging y'all to do is just, you know, just pay attention to this and notice the choices you're making. So I was driving down the road about a year ago now, and I started thinking to myself, what would it take for me not to use any plastic bags? Again, period, zero zip, stop using, go cold turkey. All right? And in that moment, I chose not to use any more plastic bags. If I went to the agreement I have with myself is if I get into the grocery store and I don't have my cloth bags, then I put the stuff back in the cart and load it in the front seat of my car and take it home that way. I only had to do that twice before I remembered every time. Okay? And so as I'm going through this process, the next step of the process for me was, what would it take not to use any plastic bottles? So go cold turkey on plastic bottles also. That was an easier solution. Stainless steel, for me, it was stainless steel. And I started pondering this whole notion, and I went to my business partner, Amy, and I said, you know, we ought to challenge the world. Let's challenge the world to see if we can get them to reduce their use on 1 million plastic one-use items. What would it take? Okay? And we chatted about it for a little while and kind of tossed it back and forth. And we, you know, 1 million, it's like 1 million? It's not that many anymore. Okay? So we started looking at 1 billion. What would it take to enroll enough people out there to reduce their use of 1 billion items? And that's when our billion bag and bulb challenge was formed. Okay? It was, we actually formed it a year ago, and it's online now. You can see it at Your Guide to Green, not yet, yourguidetogreen.com/campaign. We'll go look at it in a minute. But the notion is that we educate you. In fact, Your Guide to Green is mainly an educational site. We'll educate you and give you the information that you need in order to make informed decisions about living green. And in this case, about plastic and really looking at your plastic use. Okay? Why don't you go ahead and, yeah, let's go ahead and click over there. The Billion Bag Bottle and Bulb Challenge gives you an opportunity to log on, and that's one of the things we're here to talk about today. You can actually log on and create your own team. Okay? You'll notice over here on the right, the Urban Farm team, there are 21 members. Since we launched it in September, we have reduced our items, 9,479 items over on the right. I have a pointer over on the right here. The Urban Farm team. We've reduced the use of almost 10,000 plastic items in 6 months. Just my team. Just my team. And you'll notice that there are 289 users that are registered, and we've reduced 76,898 items. Really what this is for is to educate. It's to educate the public about these one-use items. And how you do it is you can just go to the site. You can sign up. I think, yeah, there you go. You go ahead and sign in. Once you set up there's 2 ways. You can not set up an account, or you can set up an account if you want. Obviously, I've set up an account. I've reduced my use in 6 months by 1,598 items. Okay? And so how we get to that is, remember that 1,267 plastic bags per person per year? If you say no more plastic bags, okay, that you start right there with 100. Okay? And that's per capita in the United States, per person. So if you want to make that level of commitment, then when you sign up, you can say, you know what, I will, once you go to the second link, My Pledge. You can actually, the pop-up menu right in the middle there, it says, I intend to reduce the use of how many items per month. And I think the high end is 200. 100 plastic bags if you're not using plastic bottles. How many plastic bottles do you think we use? I don't have the answer to this, but how many plastic bottles do you think we use? It's got to be 30 or 50 a month for people that are drinking them every day, right? Yeah. So just look at the choices that you make on a daily basis and see how you know, what level you'd like to commit to, and then the interface does the rest. You actually can commit. I've committed to 200 items a month. I'm pretty extreme. No more plastic bags, no more plastic bottles. You know, like I said, I make choices about restaurants and when I'm going into them, and I'm really conscious about the choices I make about these one-use items. But I'd really like to encourage you as the office here, if you can create a team. It's real simple to figure out. Create a team, and maybe we can get other Google offices to create your own teams and see if you can have a contest and see who's the greenest Google office. So, any questions about this?
What's the bulb? The bulb light, is that changing your light bulb?
That's changing your light bulbs out. Yeah, that's one thing. That's what you do once.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're committing to, 10 or 15 or 20. But, these days, changing your light bulbs out is simple. You can go to some of the stores around town. And the other thing about that is that the power companies here in Phoenix, they subsidize the bulbs. So we have an extremely reduced cost on the bulbs.
Where do you put the bulbs to be recycled, like properly?
That is a very good question. IKEA takes them. There are places around town. Some of the stores actually take the bulbs. The nice thing about that, that's a good question too, the nice thing about that is incandescent or compact fluorescent light bulbs last forever. Okay? I have one in the hall of my house that I installed in 1991. That's what, 17 years ago? And it still works. Now, it's not on a lot. I mean, it's not on thousands of hours a year, but I bet I get 100 or 200 hours a year out of that bulb, and it still works. After 18 years, 17 years.
Just so you know, you can, if you don't, at Google here, you can recycle. You can bring any of your recycled materials to me, and we will. If we start the light bulb box, we'll start a light bulb box, but we can have someone. We can have people pick it up here.
Oh, very good.
If you don't want to.
Yeah, so here in the Google office in Phoenix, Arizona, bring it on. Bring it on, and we'll get it recycled. Okay. So this, are you thinking?
Yeah.
Are you starting to think about this? There are so many things that we can do. In just about every choice that we make every day, there's a choice we can make to have less of an impact on the planet. I know some of you guys bike in. I'd love to be able to do that. In fact, one of my things is at the house at the urban farm, my office used to be in the house. So I'd get up in the morning, and I'm an early riser. I get up about 5:30 in the morning, and I'd commute out to my office, right? It's about 25 feet out. Sit down, work for a couple hours, commute back to my kitchen for breakfast, catch the Today Show, and get ready for the day, and then commute back out to my office. So that was one choice that I made for many years. My office was in the house for many, many years, like 15. There's so many things. It's not just about buying a hybrid. I had a guy recently tell me, you know what, I can't afford to go green. I can't buy a hybrid. And what I want y'all to know is there's so many things we can do. In every choice that we make every day, there's probably an environmental impact. So, is there any other questions? Yes, please.
So when I go to the grocery store and they say paper or plastic.
Ah, yes.
What do we say and why?
I say neither.
Okay, so if we forgot our bags and it's a continuation, right? It's shades of green.
Yeah, it's the shades of green.
What's slightly more green than?
Paper and plastic are real close. I would happen to choose paper.
Okay.
I'd choose paper because it's highly biodegradable. Okay, a paper bag will break down inside of a few months, whereas a plastic bag will last for years and years and years. That goes to my commitment to not using plastic. Okay. The other thing about not using plastic, hold on one second. The other thing about going zero cold turkey on the plastic bags, I haven't been able to do it. When was the last time you bought chicken wrapped in plastic, or cereal, or a bag of ice, or these things are all in plastic bags. So we live in a culture that we really can't get away totally from plastic bags, but there are areas that I can make a difference, and one of them is no more plastic grocery bags. So yes.
So how big of a problem are plastic bags? Because this is something that nobody talks about.
Yes.
Yes, people talk about recycling and water bottles and things, but nobody talks about grocery bags. There's
Right.
not a premium on them. We're not charged for them. You know, they're everywhere. They're given out for free. So
Right.
if it's a problem, how come nobody talks about it?
Well, there are a few of us that are talking about it. So how big? The question is how big is the problem given nobody's talking about it? We're seeing things like San Francisco. Didn't San Francisco recently ban the use of plastic bags? And I think California is looking at putting a bag tax on it. I know in Australia you can't use them anymore. We're waking up, okay? And it's going to take you asking those kind of questions and saying, you know what? Hold on here, time out. We need to do this differently. We need to make a different choice about this. And it's happening. I'm seeing it happen. When I was over in California, I'm so excited. When I was over in California the other day, I stopped at the Circle K or the Quick Mart on my way home, and I bought in a glass jar. I bought an Arizona iced tea, and it said tax plus tax and something else. I can't remember what the something else was, and I asked about it, what it was. She said that's the bottle deposit. I paid a dime deposit on that bottle that, I'm not going to take it back because I'm not going to California. But so things are happening like that is starting to impact the use of those items. And so that's one area to do it. And then we're just change our mind about it. Let's just not use them. There's other things that we can choose. Yes?
I saw something recently where they're finding that plastic is accumulating in the ocean.
Oh yes, the big.
And it just never breaks down.
Right. There is reportedly, and I think there's a reference to this on our website, the article on it. There's reportedly off of Hawaii an area that's circling, that's the size of Texas, that is full of plastic, just floating on the top. And I'm reading a book. Oh my gosh, I can't remember the title of the book, but I'm reading a book that talks about these researchers over in England. They're daily, for the past 5 or 10 years, they've been going on this beach and collecting plastic and taking samples, and the amount of plastic stuff that's coming up on the beaches is just amazing, all the way down to little tiny balls that is plastic that is breaking down, but it doesn't biodegrade. It just breaks down to these little plastic balls that end up in the sand that animals then take in, and there's that impact. So, yes?
Go back to the plastic bags in the grocery stores. Some grocery stores are actually, if you bring in your cloth one, to actually give you like 5 cents.
5 cents, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, some of the grocery stores are giving you an off if you bring in.
By the way, yeah, what stores are friendly to this? Because like last week I just went to Walmart and they have this huge automatic cart to automate the giving out of plastic bags. I was flabbergasted.
Mm-hmm. What stores are friendly?
Yeah, they won't be friendly there.
A lot of them are waking up. I mean, the friendliest ones, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's. I know Whole Foods, I think on Earth Day, they gave, this year, 2008, they gave up no more plastic bags. I haven't been in since then, but, so, they're waking up. I heard Fry's. It's not so strange anymore to go into one of the major chains and bring your bags in. They don't look at you funny anymore. 5 years ago, they looked at us funny.
Yeah, I know. I was one challenge, like, hey, you might be stealing that because you don't have bags.
Yeah.
And you have to even
Yes.
cross it over. Like, I was doing it for groceries, and then one day I was like, why am I not doing this for my clothes? Like,
Yes.
Department store, and I walk out with big bags,
Yeah.
and I could have brought the big IKEA bag to the department
Right.
store. And
That is excellent. When you go for other shopping, when you go shopping elsewhere, take your bags with you also. Absolutely. And the interesting thing, as you can tell from my talk today, I'm pretty extreme when it comes to this. I'm pretty, progressive when it comes to this. And that thought of, taking it in for when I buy clothes just occurred to me recently. Just occurred to me recently. And I think that's part, we have so much of this coming at us right now that, it takes a while sometimes for it to sink in. And that's okay too. That's okay too. We can do what, I'm a firm believer that we do the best that we can do with the information that we have at the time. You know? And when new information comes out, then we can make new decisions. So, please.
The water in Arizona.
The water in Arizona, yes.
So my challenge is to get these folks to use water from the tap.
Yes.
And fortunately, the building is going to be going to a water filtration system, so I'll be able to reduce the amount of bottles we bring in terms of water.
Yes.
However, then some offices were saying that once they did that they found people just drinking less water. Just drinking the sodas and the pops and those sorts of things. How do you know anything about how
filter systems?
Yeah. Well, filtration systems one, but also just how what's the argument of the water, tap water, safe to drink? I mean, I know I have one friend that's all she drinks, and she's fine.
Tap water?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you know, and in Phoenix, the big challenge is the taste. Right. You know, and if it's cooled, so if it's coming out of a drinking fountain, it doesn't taste so bad. But that's the problem here in Phoenix. And you know, the tap water in Phoenix is safe. Okay? The city makes sure to that, but it tastes yucky. Yucky. Yeah, yucky. That's a technical term. The best thing you can do, there's you know, filter systems.
The building, I don't have a choice. I just want to know like what I should be asking, what questions I should be asking about this filter system, so that when I get challenged by these folks,
right.
I have answers.
Yes.
And I don't know what questions I should be asking, or where I should be going.
Asking questions that you should be asking of the people you're getting the systems from.
Yeah. Well, I'm not putting it in. Our landlord.
Landlord will put it in. Right. Well, there's two main kinds of systems. Excuse me. There's two main kinds of systems. There's the reverse osmosis, and that takes everything out of the water. Okay? And then there's the charcoal filters. And there's a couple of really good, like 10-stage charcoal filters that the water tastes really good coming out of it. And that's the thing. If you give the people in the office something that tastes good, they're going to drink more of it. Right? So really you want to find out from the landlord what system they're putting in. Okay? Is it a reverse osmosis? Is it charcoal? And that's the main question.
Which one makes the water taste better? The charcoal?
I think so. I think so. And I have a reverse osmosis system at my house. Okay?
People actually prefer some minerals in the water.
Yes. See, that's the thing about reverse osmosis. It takes all of the minerals out. Okay, then we have to put them back in our body somehow. Okay, whereas charcoal doesn't do that, and I think that's what has it taste a little bit better. Is the charcoal filter? It's not taking all the minerals out. It's just taking the bad stuff out. So yes, please.
Why does our tap water taste yucky, and/or have we just been conditioned to prefer the taste of something different?
Oh, interesting. Why does our tap water taste yucky, and have we just been conditioned? I suspect that that's part of it, that we've been conditioned. However, I know that my tap water at my house tastes yucky. You know, there's a certain, I mean, and it's not all that bad. I mean, I could sit there and drink a glass of it. Okay? It's not all that unpleasant. You know, we've got the water's coming through copper pipes, and in some houses galvanized pipe, and so it's, you know, it's picking up the tastes of that. I would say that's why it doesn't taste so good, is because it's, you know, it's traveling. How many miles is it traveling underground in a pipe to come to our house?
But then it should taste the same in every city in America.
Yeah.
Based on your distance from the water supply. And that's not the case. Water tastes different in different cities.
Our water, you have two tastes of water in Phoenix. You have whether it's canal water, tastes different from groundwater.
Oh yes, that is the case.
Has a really high mineral content in it, a lot of dissolved rock. So that's one taste. And then the stuff that's on the surface, the
canal water.
It's pretty biologically active for a very long time. So it has a completely different taste. But, so yeah, there's two kinds of yuck in Phoenix.
And those tastes can't be treated out.
They can
to a certain degree. Right, to a certain extent.
So it gets exponentially more expensive to
exactly.
taste out.
Right, exactly.
In New Mexico where I lived, the water tasted worse and worse over time because as more people moved in, they were going to less preferable sources for the water.
Right. And I was on a farm actually a few years ago in Illinois or something like that, and they couldn't drink the well water because it was too high in sulfur. Okay. So it's just, there's the environmental causes along the way. Yeah. I'm sure we can find out the exact answer to that. I just don't have it off the top of my head.
Water is going to taste really different if it comes through hard rocks or if it comes through soft rocks.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's coming through soft rocks.
Soft rocks, there you go. Did you have one more?
Yeah, I have lots.
Okay, I love that. You're like me. I usually sit in the front, though. The professors at ASU when I was there used to throw things at me. Shut up, Greg.
No, we're doing the Green Committee's doing everything it can.
Yes.
I think the Googlers here do a lot.
Oh my gosh, incredible amount.
And we're very happy to have an expert or someone who's trying to be an expert
Yes.
on our property.
Uh-huh.
When you look around, do you see little things that we probably could be doing better? That you've been here a few times.
Yes.
And I know there's some big things, like I'm looking at these light bulbs right now.
Right.
But
Is there things here in the Google office that you could be doing better?
like, this is so easy, why aren't they doing this, or
So I haven't seen anything glaring at me. I haven't seen anything glaring at me. And I typically take notice of that just because I've been doing it for so long. And I've been coming to your green meeting. So next green meeting, how about if we'll walk around and we'll have that conversation? I'd be more than happy to do that. That'd be fun. That's fun for me. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I really want to thank you guys for letting me come in and share with you today. This is what I love to do. If I could do this every day, all day, I'd be in heaven. Please check out our challenge, yourguidetogreen.com/campaign, and create a team here. That'd be great. We also on our website we put out a weekly tip. They're real simple. I know we are so busy these days that my tips that I send out are 2 paragraphs. And they connect you back to an article, a weekly article on a particular topic. So that really Your Guide to Green is about educating. How can we get people learning about this stuff and asking questions? So thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.